The lowest point of my life was during the recession period, the first recession that I ever experienced as an adult, between 2008 and 2010, where I was in real estate and property management at that time. And the world took a hit, especially the industry of real estate and property management. I had no money skills. I made a lot of money. I was making like $250,000 total based on salary and commissions at that time. But I was also spending that money as soon as it was coming in. I was the shopaholic. I had to have all the nice things. And so when that recession hit and I was laid off of that job, I didn't have more than 6 months worth of money to survive on. And, you know, that recession took a hit for over a almost 3-year period of time. And so I went from making like $250,000 that particular year in commissions, or the year right before it, thinking I had made it, to having to humble myself and going back to work for $11 an hour. $11 an hour. And at this time, I had a really big house, almost 4,000 square feet, 5 bedrooms on a basement, just me and my daughter. I had the nice cars, and we lost everything. I mean, we lost everything. And we're talking about low moments. Like, I'm not talking about just monetary loss. It was more like literally having to go to the gym to take a shower because the utilities are off in the home, literally having to at the same time go to the gym and fill up gallons of water. And I'm in there pretending like, when people that are in the gym that I'm familiar with see me in here pretending that I'm on this water challenge, and I just drink all this water, when really I was filling up water gallons to go home and pour in the back of my toilet tank to be able to flush my toilet. I am talking about having to line my toilet with a plastic bag and sit my daughter on the toilet, telling her to take a poop in the plastic bag. You pee in the toilet, you poop in the plastic bag, because we got to go like 5 P's in between a flush. Like, I'm talking about playing hide and seek in the dark with your daughter because you don't want her to go to school and tell people that you don't have lights at home, so we make it a game. Right? Those were some of the lowest points of my life.
Little toughness.
Listen, stop feeling sorry for yourself. Come on, man. What's wrong with you?
Mental toughness mindset.
I had to go to grow.
Stand safe.
Martin Luther King.
You got challenges that you're going to run across.
All right, so welcome to another episode of Elite Psyche, the really big show. We've changed from a pod, we the really big show now. And on Elite Psyche, we talk to people who have had success in life, and we know that anybody that has success has gone through some challenges to where they have to be mentally tough, and they have to get a strong psyche to keep going. And we know that a lot of people, give in. And so the ones who have had success, we know that they've gone through those things and learned how to have that elite psyche and be mentally tough. And today I have a special guest, and also I'm gonna have her as a big show host too. So she doesn't know some of the other stuff we're gonna do, but I'm just, today I wanna bring up Miss Donnie Wiggins. It's kind of like, you know how you just say the president, everybody knows. I just gotta say, I say Donnie Wiggins. I can say the superstar, the big homie. I mean, she is the one and only. So Donnie, welcome, and glad to have you.
Thank you, Tony. I am super happy to be here. Very excited that you asked me to join you here on Elite Psyche, for sure.
Man, okay. So, well, let's just jump right into it, man. What you been up to lately? I know you're always on the move every time I talk to you. Yeah. I
am always working, but Not always. I am always working, but lately this year I have been taking, and not even this year, the last year I've been taking a lot of time to focus on like my own self-care. I've been in the gym super hard lately. I am on a 42-day 42-day straight workout challenge. So we've got that going on. We got a lot of good things happening by the grace of God, for sure.
So who's your trainer? Give him a shout.
Her name is Miss Bria Loren. Miss Bria Loren out in Atlanta, Georgia, and she kicks my butt several days a week in the gym. So we do 3 or 4 days together, and then I do the other 3 or 4 days independently.
What's her Instagram?
Miss Bria Loren, MissBriaLoren.
All right. So y'all heard that. That's the superstar, the big homie trainer.
You don't want to work out with her unless you're serious.
Right. So y'all do free weights?
Yeah.
Okay.
We do everything. Free weights, cardio, machine weights. We do everything.
For an hour or what?
Or more, however long it takes to get it done, because the only place that I try to be a quitter on purpose is the gym. I am okay with being a quitter in the gym. Now, she doesn't let me quit, but I say that to say that sometimes our workouts can be 45 minutes if I get through it. But I have many days where right now I am on day 13 of the 42 days straight, and everything hurts. So I have many days where I go in there and I'm like, Brie, we're not doing this today. And she's like, you're not a quitter. And I'm like, for sure I am. And I'm okay with that. So there's a whole lot of like mental psyche that she has to do to get my head in the game for the workout.
So what gym?
We go to different gyms. Okay. I have a gym in my building, in my condo building where I live. I have a membership at Lifetime. We can do all kinds of stuff.
So she's just doing you, not a group. She's just doing you.
So yes, but I have invited a few of my friends along this journey with me. So we will work out by ourselves, but I do have a couple of friends, 3 friends that can work out with me too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump right into this, man. If y'all don't know, which I don't know who wouldn't know this, but Ms. Wiggins and Mr. David Shan has a podcast called Social Proof. Mm-hmm. And they're doing big numbers. They're doing well. And let's kind of talk about that. When did y'all start with that podcast? And how did you get involved with it? Because, you know, you were doing a lot of other things.
Yeah, I was. Some things with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Social Proof. So Social Proof started as an event. And it was an event that featured a lot of entrepreneurs telling their stories, sharing their journey, teaching like some entrepreneurial tips, much like what the podcast is. And David had this great idea in 2019 to, instead of just putting a bunch of speakers on a flyer and saying, hey, this person's going to be there, this person's going to be there, he did these very small, like 10 to 15 minute video interviews or video clips where they were able to talk about the things that they were going to be teaching, and you could look forward. You know, they were telling you what you could look forward to at the Social Proof conference, right? Mm-hmm. And so that event went very well in 2019. David started to prepare for the Social Proof conference in 2020, but the pandemic happened and the events could no longer take place. But he'd already had these mini promo interviews from these guests that were going to be featured at that conference. So he decided to keep running with that same theme. Just, hey, we can't do an event. I'm going to put these videos out anyway, because I believe at that time they increased to like 30-minute conversations. He started to put those out anyway, and they began to pick up some traction. So after he got through the people that were going to be guests for the Social Proof conference, he just kept inviting entrepreneurs out. I mean, because we're at home and we're bored, we don't have anything to do. Episode 49, I finally go out to, I was the host of the Social Proof conference. Episode 49, I finally go out to do an interview, sit down with him and do an interview. This is now 2020. And David asked me to be his co-host. Now, to back up a little bit, he and I have been working together since 2015. We've been business partners specifically since 2015. We used to host these entrepreneur conferences or workshops. They were more like workshops. We do events together, and we just always supported each other in business. And so in 2020, he's like, just come do this. And I'm like, no, I didn't understand. I didn't have time. It's the pandemic. People are panicking. How am I making money? I have to run my business. I have to be very strategic with how I am spending every hour of my time. And I didn't believe that I could commit to showing up and doing these podcast interviews. And back then, we were like recording every day. It was like all over the place. It was like, can you come in? Can you come in? Can we record? Can we record? And so, and I didn't see the monetization in it. I'm like, I don't have time. I'm like, David, we're in the middle of a pandemic. I don't have time to be sitting around here having conversations with people and not getting money.
Right.
And so he's like, just give it a shot. Let's just give it like 90 days. And if you don't like it, we can just pretend like it never happened. You can quit. And
wait a minute. So when you said that about, man, I don't have time to really do this because I ain't getting any money, So did he paint a vision then to say, well, money's coming? No, he didn't. He just
know. The podcast wasn't making money at that time, and we didn't know anything about podcasting at that time to know how it would make money. What David and I have always done is put the idea out and figure it out later, right? Mm-hmm. And so it was the same exact thing here. He just believed in it so much. And there was a part of me that I'm a softie, and David always goes for my crazy ideas. So there was a part of me that felt like, okay, I'll do it. This is my friend. I'll sit and I'll do this, but I can only do it if we streamline like the operations a little bit. I can't be here every day shooting podcasts. So we figured out a schedule, and we started. I came on.
Where were y'all shooting them at the time? Where?
There's a building called the E-Complex. It's a studio that we used to do our events out of. David had that building. It's a leased building. Called it the E-Complex. It was
where is that?
It's in Chambly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's a building where entrepreneurs could come and do events. But it was his building under his lease. Yeah. Okay. And so that's where we started shooting at that time. And we moved all over that building trying to figure out where our set would be. Like our set was literally all over that building. And so it was
so didn't the guy Chad have a building like that over off Holland and Smyrna? You know Chad, I can't think his last name, networker. He had a building where people would come and do events. It was he and another guy. But I'm assuming it probably was just like that if you don't know,
I don't know who he is, but there are buildings like that all over.
Chad Thompson. I don't.
Oh, Chad. Chad Thompson. I don't know what his building structure was. Mm-hmm. I don't know what his building structure was, but Chad has all kinds of stuff.
Okay. All right. So go ahead, continue.
So then I came on episode 49 of the Social Proof podcast. I came on, and in the beginning, it did not go so well. People have been used to seeing David for 48 episodes, just being him, having these conversations with these guests. And because at that time I was still transitioning out of the network marketing world.
I believe at that time that was you and I was working together.
Well, no, I had you and I stopped working together in 2018. Okay. And in 2018, I had enough money in the bank to chill for a minute and, make some decisions and kind of decide what I wanted to do, because I knew that I no longer wanted to do the whole network marketing industry. I got tired of having to rebuild at some points in time for reasons that were outside of my control. And that was a very, very difficult industry to navigate at times. And when I say difficult, I meant more mental strain than the actual making money part. Making money in network marketing was easy, and the industry absolutely changed my life. So it was a heart-wrenching time for me at 2018 to say, I think I'm done.
I can. I can say this, and then you give me your input on that, your thoughts at least. I remember, see, I've been doing this a long time, at least in networking. In the 90s, I started in 96. What were you doing in 1996?
Graduating high school.
Okay. All right. So I started in 1996. I went full time. And during that time, it was really only about 4 or 5 companies that people heard of, because it wasn't any social media, it wasn't anything. It was just, the company I was a part of was ACN, and you had Excel, then you had the Amway, and a few more. So the vision that what people were speaking about, building big teams and getting residual income, you really could do that at that time. But as it got into the 2001, 2000, it was so many companies popping up that it was hard to keep people on a team, because and then social media, it was just so many options. People were jumping, doing this. And so I feel you. I understand exactly what you're saying. And that's a challenge right now because of it's just so many options out here. Is there so many people, and people want to, they want to be the king or the queen and sit on top, so they'll go to another company to do that. But I mean, I think it's great that you did move on, because you set an example. You and David set a great example doing the podcast. So, but what are your thoughts on that? What do you think was the biggest challenge? You say rebuilding.
Rebuilding in MLM or rebuilding after MLM? If I'm being totally honest, when I was introduced to the industry of MLM, multi-level marketing or network marketing, I was introduced to it under the mindset that I would be able to generate residual income and willable income to, my daughter, which was the biggest priority for me at that time, right? And as I started to build in the industry, I had a slow start. I started in 2011 with a company called Organo Gold, and I did okay there, okay in respect to what I ended up doing in the industry, but excellent compared to how many people actually make money in network marketing, right? So to generate a couple $1,000s a month was a really, really big deal. And I thought, I had it all figured out, like, oh my God, this is great. We're getting $2,000 and $3,000 and $4,000 a month. It was great. But after I left that company, I went into the travel industry, and that's when I became a 6-figure, and then I would ultimately become a multiple 6-figure income earner in the travel network marketing industry. And the hardest part of building and rebuilding is that you have absolutely no control over what the company is experiencing outside of you. So any legal issues, any merchant account issues, any product issues, like those things are outside of your control. You can't solve for it. You can't control how it happens when it happens. You really, there's not a lot that you can do. You're literally simply a sales representative for a company. And if it doesn't work out, if there is legal trouble and it doesn't work out, all that huge portfolio you've built, that huge organization you've built is immediately dismantled, right? Mm-hmm. If the company finds that you have violated a rule that they softly have in place, just because of your position in the company, if they don't like something that you do, they have the right to put you out, shut you out, hold your checks. So I think the hardest part of building is working so hard, knowing that at any time outside of your control, this can all be taken from you. This can all be dismantled, and there's really no recourse that you have. And even if there is a slight bit of legal recourse, typically these companies have so much money that they'll bury you in court fees before you can get any kind of resolution. So I just saw that didn't happen necessarily to me. But I saw it happening so much with other leaders that I admired in these companies, the lawsuits and the battles and the company's getting mad if this leader builds a business outside of the organization. And I took it as a clue very early on, and I realized this is not an industry that I can stay connected to or committed to unless I was open to the idea of having to go and rebuild.
Right.
And I wasn't.
Yeah. I was that guy who got sued 3 times.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about, they come down hard. And they used to have a guy sitting outside of my house to serve me. And when I came into the subdivision, I would call my wife and say, "Is he out there?" She said, "Yeah." And then I said, "When I count to 10, let the garage up." And so we counted 10, and I was in a cul-de-sac, and I go flying right past him, go right in the garage and close it down while he getting out the car, coming to see. He never could catch me, but that was a headache for about 1.5 years until the guy who owned the company, who had signed the lawsuit, he left that company. And so if he signed it, that means that now I'm free because he left the company. And I was happy because I was paying an attorney, just kind of hold them off.
Mm-hmm.
But,
and that's scary. Like nobody wants to deal with that. It's scary.
Right.
At the time that you're going through that, you're not generating your income from that company, and they feel, and it literally can cripple you at your knees if you don't have a good savings or investments, or you've already moved on to something else. And usually the lawsuit makes it so that you couldn't have moved on to something else yet. So when
it scares the team, it scares your team. So that cease and desist, they tell your team that this going to happen to you.
Yeah.
And so they don't want to move either. So they,
Yep. So I saw it. Listen, success leaves clues. And I saw that happen at least 5 times. And I was on my way to becoming a leader of that magnitude. And I had to make a decision.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, I'm glad you did, though, again, because, David kind of set example, at least for me watching. I didn't. I don't know how I missed a lot of it during COVID either, because I know a lot of people, and I always wanted to start a podcast and just never moved on it. And I can tell you a story later on why I really moved on it. But to see you all's growth and what y'all are doing, what do you see that? I think we might have talked about this. I don't know if the biggest thing you see from people or from having a successful podcast that's kind of shocking to you. And I don't know if I asked you this question that way, but I know you gave me an answer. I'm gonna see if you give me the same one.
I don't know if we've talked about this. What's the biggest? So I understand the question. Are you asking me
the biggest shock and the biggest? Yeah. Maybe I asked you the wrong way. I can tell you what you said, though. You said
no.
Okay.
Are you asking me what's the biggest shock now that we have this podcast? That like the biggest thing that I'm shocked about?
Yeah.
The biggest thing that I am shocked about is the ability for people to get out here and generate revenue and make differences and impacts based on their own thoughts, based on their own conversations that they want to have with the world. I would also say one of the biggest shocking moments, honestly, is my own story. I did not see the monetization in podcasts when I started in 2020. And that podcast has allowed me to grow exponentially. So that's also really shocking. Those are the positives. The negatives that I see that I believe would be really shocking is the people who have this opportunity to create impact and they're using it in a negative way, right? And
give me an example. Let me get an example of that.
There are these relationship podcasts, or I don't even know if I call them a relationship podcast, because their goal isn't to forge healthy relationships. It's to pin men against women and women against men and vice versa. And just to see that wave, that cycle right now, that's literally taking over and shifting the thought processes in a way that's so damaging, that's shocking as well.
Yeah. And I see that too. And it's you'll never get an answer, because everybody's going to have their own opinion about it. So just putting that out there, I guess it gets some likes and views because people like to talk about that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
If you want to make a whole lot of money in podcasting, or in business, start a business that focuses on relationships and pointing out why women are single and why men are single, put them against each other, and you will have people captivated.
Yeah.
And I've learned that it's because so many people are miserable in their own lives that they want to tune into information that's going to justify their bad behavior or that's going to justify their limited and negative thinking. And so those are catalysts to validate people and their beliefs and their actions and behaviors and things like that. Like, when you have the podcasters that are attacking women and saying you're too independent, you're too strong, you're too this, that, and the other, you've got this group of men who are trying to control the narrative of their relationship, telling their women, you hear this podcast, this is exactly what's happening. This is what I've been telling you the whole time. Right. And it works both ways.
Right.
So, yeah, it's unfortunate that that's what we're using our airspace for.
I know. But I guess I remember we were talking and I probably didn't ask the question the same way, but I'm going to tell you what you said. Was that the comment section? You were like, I can't believe that they just, remember that?
Yeah, that was definitely a very different question. So
okay, I know.
Early,
it was close.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. One of the biggest things that was shocking to me after initially starting the podcast, Social Proof specifically, was the comment section. The way that I was received by the audience that had already started plugging into the first 48 episodes of Social Proof. Now we're almost 500 episodes in, so this is years ago at this point. But I've always been like the golden child. People have generally always liked me or been inspired by me. I've always done great business, and so when I came onto this platform, with the intent of helping people build their business, because I am a business coach. When I came onto the platform and with the intent of helping people, and their response was, why does he need her? Who is she? Get rid of her. She thinks she knows it all. And, all this good stuff. It was definitely shocking. I was like, well, what did I do to you? What did I say? And, I'd have to go back and look at the interview sometimes, like, did I offend a group of people? And I'd literally look at them and say, I'm really just telling you how to build your business. But then, and so at that time I told Dave, I went to my business partner, David, and I said, the audience doesn't seem to be receiving me well. And I don't want to ruin your brand. I have my own thing going on, right? Like, in the industry of network marketing, in my organization, we become like little celebrities in these organizations. People can't wait to get your autograph or to take a picture or to meet you. So that's what I'm used to. Right. And so to come into this space where I am being judged for doing the exact same thing I was doing in another space, but on a higher level, I just didn't get it. I didn't understand. And so I said, hey, look, I have my own motion going on. You have your own motion going on. I don't have to deal with this at all. Like, I'm not going to deal with the internet slander. And Dave said, no, no, sis, just do me a favor. Stay out of the comments. Don't read the comments. Like, we'll change their mind. And so we just kept recording. And I stopped looking at the comments. And eventually one day, someone who was on the team that assisted us with the YouTube was pointing out that the comments had changed drastically. You then saw a whole bunch of people who was like, get rid of Donnie, turn into, you know what? In the beginning, I judged her. Now she's actually my favorite, between the two. Or, you know what? In the beginning, I judged her, but I see that the value that she adds. Like, I went from being the most disliked to a lot of people's favorite. And so to me, that's definitely a testament to just staying true to who you are. That could have changed me. I could have changed my whole persona to try to please a crowd, but you have to teach people what to expect from you and how to receive you. And eventually the narrative will shift. And if it doesn't, that's not your people anyway.
Yeah. I think the biggest challenge with most people, especially our culture, is we hate change.
Yeah.
And that's just, I mean, if you change something, man, they just, oh my God, it's like and they had to let you grow, with David. And then it's like anything else. Anytime you make a change, you change companies, people like, oh, whatever. But once you continue doing it and they keep seeing it, what do you think your biggest input with David, for people to turn around and, like you said, and start liking you? What do you think you bring to that social proof? I mean,
Yeah.
you tell me the truth. Don't give me a politician answer.
No, I never do. I
Okay.
think that people are slow to receive change, especially they're slow to receive change, period. But especially when you have a Black woman who is clearly a leader and okay with being a leader. Some people would say she's a boss. That's not necessarily terminology that I use, but you have a woman who has a strong mindset and a lot of opinion. People will be very, very reluctant to accept that change, to hear what I'm actually saying versus what they want me to be saying. And to the Social Proof podcast, I bring a lot of the business acumen. Like, I am the business coach. David is the creative, and he for sure certainly understands business, but I just understand business at a higher level. So when we're having conversations with entrepreneurs and they want to learn about scaling their business, they want to learn about different strategies, we work very well together. David and I are complementary. It's not even so much about he brings this and I bring that. We complement each other very well because we have very similar strengths, and we also have very similar weaknesses. Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
So you saying you're not a boss bitch? You're not
No,
one of
I'm
those?
not. I don't ever. And the only and hear me out. I am a boss. I am a boss because I am a woman who runs a business and I have employees. And the thing that irritates me about people who have a problem with a woman proclaiming herself being a boss is they don't have the same problem when they pull up into their job and they're running a few minutes late and they're like, oh, shoot, let me hop off the phone. I got to call my boss and tell them that I'm running a few minutes late. You're okay calling these white people your boss, but you see a strong, beautiful Black woman who's single, and it must be a problem. It must be problematic that she's a boss. No, I actually have a business and I have employees. So in that sense, I'm a boss. But what society means by the boss bee and all of that stuff, I'm not that girl. Like, I have no desire to be in control of anybody. I provide opportunities for people and I lead them and navigate them through those opportunities.
Okay. What would you say that makes David successful in your eyes? What do you think? What is his?
I think he'd have to answer that, but David is an amazing person. I think that he's genuine and he's authentic, and he sincerely cares about people. He makes decisions based on what would be best for the community that he leads, and that's not easy. Like, he and I both will pass on a whole lot of money if it doesn't sit right, with us. If we can't see, if it's damaging to people, we're not okay with that. And David is a gifted connector of people. He knows how to connect people together who need each other and who can leverage each other for success.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's back it up a little bit. Where did you get this confidence of being this boss growing up as a kid? Somebody in your family, or where did it come from? Are you the only one in the family that operates the way you operate, or?
So I don't have confidence in being a boss at all. Being people's employer makes me nervous every single day, and we're still figuring it out. But I am confident in being an entrepreneur. I am confident in my ability to try things. I'm never afraid. And even if I am afraid, I do things scared anyway. Like, I believe in me. I don't believe in a title of what people want me to be. And that confidence probably comes from my upbringing. Like, my mom and my stepdad enrolled me in every opportunity I got to learn and to display what I've learned. I've been, I went to school and was in all of the summer programs. So I was constantly having to meet new people every single summer. I didn't get to lay in the bed and hang out with the same friends. I had to get out there and network and meet new people in other states far away from home. The typical girl stuff, dancing and cheerleading and gymnastics. Like we did all those things. But I was always, I'm a great team player, but I'm a great leader. In school growing up early on, if there was a team, I was always like assigned because I had the loudest voice. I was always like the spokesperson for the team. So speaking up for me was something that developed at a very early age. And because my mom and my stepdad are so different, I learned how to be so diverse. My mom is a creative person who has tried all kinds of businesses. You name it, she did it. Cosmetology, word processing, computer programming, real estate. Like she was always the super ambitious person who's going to try to start a business. And she, at that time, with me growing up, she's the first person that I ever saw work from home. She worked from home nearly my whole life, right? And I thought that's, you're supposed to be comfortable. You're supposed to be comfortable at work. And it's supposed to be convenient as long as you're doing a great job. My dad, on the other hand, is very logical. He's an engineer. He's part of the team that introduced the first cell phones as we know them today to the world. Like he actually worked on those. He was also an aviation engineer over with the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, like guiding planes. So he had to always be thinking critically and 10 steps in advance to keep planes from flying into each other. So I grew up with my mom putting me in all the girl stuff and the feminine stuff and, cakes and cookies and cooking and, all those things. But it's okay to be ambitious too and have a family. And my dad taught me how to be very logical, but a critical thinker. And if you don't know the answer, you figure it out. And it's the combination of both of those things that have made me who I am today. I am still very interested in all the things, but I never shy away from a problem because I sincerely have a gift of critical thinking. And I think that's missing amongst people today. Like, for example, on weekends with my dad, he bought me this circuit board. It's just like a circuit board that comes in a box. And he would teach me how to like hot wire a car or a motorcycle with this circuit board. Well, with my mom, we're going out for breakfast and we're going shopping and we're going to go get our hair done. So, and I had to indulge in both things. So it's literally the best of both worlds. I went to college. Many people don't know this, but I went to college for chemical engineering. That was my strength. My favorite subjects were chemistry and calculus. Like I got off on learning how to solve problems. And that has carried into who I am today. I am a problem solver. When Olivia Pope came out on TV, I'm like, for the first time ever, I see a representation of who I am.
I never watched that show. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it and see if, if I see that in you. Because,
for sure.
My big sister, Lisa Adams Horsley, is the one who introduced me to you.
Yes.
And she hates that I call her my big sister, but she's a little bit older than me.
Shout out to Lisa. I love Lisa. My big sister too.
I tried to get her to pop on and at least say hi. No, that's y'all thing you're doing. I don't want to interrupt. I said, okay. You know how she gets though. But when I met you through her, I saw those leadership skills right away. I've been doing it for a long time, and I meet people all the time who talk a good game, but the way you handle yourself with the group of people you had, you were the leader.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people try to put, their group on you. Now, there's a point that you have to do that, you're doing edification and all that. But when somebody handles their group, does their meetings, does the calls, train them and all that, that's a rarity. I'm just telling you, over the years, I've probably met, Lisa's one of them, but I probably met maybe 8 or 9 actually ladies that would just grab it like that and do it. I'm not saying everybody is not doing it, but I'm just saying the ones that I've dealt with. Yeah. So I have to commend you on that and the work ethic. I saw you would, put the work in. You really was that grinding person. Now, let me ask you this question. So we kind of like in the same ballpark. Do you think leaders are born or are they developed?
Both.
You can't give me both. You gotta give me one.
I think it's both. I've seen
Really?
evidence of both. I think experience turns you into a leader more than anything. I have seen evidence of people being born into highly powerful legacies, highly powerful bloodlines. And we see it every day. We see it on TV, and their children take it and they do nothing with it. They inherit the title of leader, but they don't inherit the core values and the characteristics of what it means to be a leader. And I have seen people who are born into families. I have a friend that was born into a family where mom and dad were both addicted to crack his whole life. He did not have any examples. He was in and out of school, graduated super late, and his experience made him a leader. Once he became of age, he had to take control of his life. And now that translates into who he is as a businessman today. So I honestly think it's both. I think some people are born leaders, but that's because they're born into situations that allow them to experience leadership in a healthy way. And I think others, through experience, can be taught how to be leaders.
So from scratch, okay. So you don't believe that they had to have something in them first. Like you got to have something that you can work with.
Yeah.
I mean,
for sure.
but I'm saying that was something that they were born with.
No, I believe that your experiences in life turn you into that person. And sometimes you're born into certain experiences, and sometimes certain things are learned or introduced. So I don't necessarily, yes, is there a such thing as a born leader? Absolutely. But do you have to be born a certain way to be a leader? I don't believe so. I believe that you can be taught. Now, there are people who, and we see this too. We see it like with kids who are prodigies, child prodigies, who go on and they're 7 years old and they just graduated college, or 13 years old and graduated college. There are some people with a born calling and they get it right out of the womb, right? But that's not the case for most people. Many of us had to learn how to be a leader. And we know this now because of all of the stories that we hear of the billionaires, of the Tyler Perrys, of the Oprah Winfreys. Like it's their experience. It's what they experienced that made them had to become a leader, not their DNA. They didn't come from the best DNA, but because of their experience, they had to learn really quickly. Like, if this is not what I enjoyed, if this is not the life that I want to live, I have to make some different decisions. And you'll meet people along the way that will inspire certain behavior out of you. And you're like, you know what? I resonate with that differently. I want to be more like that person. And you can develop and foster leadership skills.
So I've seen this where somebody has the leadership skills, they have the leadership ability, and they can come to a company and they can do anything because of that leadership skill level they have, the confidence they have, the swag that they have. They don't really have to know anything about the product as much.
Yeah.
But because of that, people pick that vibe up when you walk in the room. It's kind of like who was it? Earl Nightingale had this cassette tape back in the day called The Man on the White Horse.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that person that comes in that room with that confidence is like the person on the white horse. They stick out. You know, you don't know who they are, you don't know what they're doing, but it's almost like it's a swag, it's an aroma that follows them that, you know, that you bring into the room, and you know that that person can be successful.
But that same person who walked in that room and you look at them and you know there's somebody, when they grab that mic in front of the room and start telling their story, it is often inclusive of some type of serious hardship, some type of rough circumstance that built them. Like, leadership is built under pressure. It's that you're not born into this person and it's like, oh, you are a leader. You have a path that you're assigned, and that path will make the leader out of you or not. We don't hear a whole lot of people in leadership that had silver spoon lives, right? People, and it's not to confuse leader with successful or leader with rich, right? We're talking about leaders, somebody who can influence the group of people to make decisions, somebody who knows how to control an organization, and someone who typically makes conscious decisions to the benefit of the people that they are leading. That's who I'm talking about. And when you hear those stories, I can't think of any where it didn't involve some type of trial and tribulation, some type of chaos, some type of trauma. And so I say it again, I believe those experiences developed the leader in them, just like some of those same experiences can develop the non-leader in you. There are people who will succumb to those experiences in a very negative way, while there are others that will say, you know what, I got to do something different. I know this isn't right. I am going to read all of the books. I am going to, all you have to do is show me evidence that something works. I am that person. I don't know. I don't know about half the products. Like when the last company that you and I were in together, I didn't use them, didn't want them. I don't care. And if you show me that it works for somebody else, before my first box of packages came in, I already started building a team. There are just some people who are like that. But I also have a story with some rocks and some bumps and some bruises along the way. And the decisions that I made during those times are what built me into being a leader.
One of the challenges I had, well, it wasn't a challenge, but I kind of really wished that I had some of the stories you talk about. I used to hear people say, I was born in the garage and I slept under my dad's car. And every time he backed out, I thought he was going to run over me, but I made it. And I'm like, I don't have one of those. I wish I had one of those, but my grind became one of those because I was the guy who just jumped out there, which I don't tell anybody to do, but I just left AT&T when I saw the system of network marketing. And the reason why is that I remember at AT&T, I was a top sales there for like 3 or 4 years. And I used to always help out some of the reps in the office because they was afraid to go knock on doors. And now we did a lot of cold calling. So I would tell them, ride with me and I'll go and help you. Now they knew the product much better than me. I didn't hardly know the product at all, but they knew the product, but they never would leave the office.
Yeah.
So when I went out with them and rode with them and they started making sales, I remember my boss, this is before I ever heard of network.
Your who? You remember your who?
I had a boss. Yeah. I had a boss. I had a boss a couple of times. Like,
I wish I was recording that.
No, yeah, I worked for the Atlanta Journal. I had a boss there and the AT&T, those two. But he came to town and I asked him one day, he was like the regional guy. I said, since I'm helping them, can I get a percentage or something like? He said, no, we can't pay that way. And I told him, this is literally, I said, well, the area manager gets a piece, the district manager, the regional manager. Why don't you just slide me in there and let me get a little cut too, since everybody's getting a piece? Oh, no, we can't do that. So when I heard about network marketing, it was the first thing I heard about long distance service. I'm thinking, man, you can get paid like that?
Yeah.
And that's what made me just jump out there. I don't tell people to do that because I went out there, left my job and everything.
I jumped too. And I want to clarify that when I say experiences build leadership, it doesn't have to be a sob story. I did not grow up in poverty. I grew up in a very middle-class neighborhood or environment or family. I had everything that I needed. I was considered spoiled as a little girl. But
you're the only child?
I'm an only child and I was spoiled rotten. But I also, like my mom, made decisions that molded me into leadership. My dad made decisions like sending me away to summer camps where I had to go out from Atlanta to South Carolina or Atlanta to Chicago, Atlanta to Florida, and figure it out amongst a group of people. You learn some leadership skills. You learn some survivalship skills instead of being a crutch, on my parents. Trying out, like being encouraged to not just be the cheerleader, but try out for captain. I became the captain of the cheerleader. Little girls and, who are part of the Girl Scouts develop leadership skills. Little boys who are part of Boy Scouts develop leadership skills. If you are ever the captain of the football team or, the leader of the basketball team, you're developing leadership skills. And those are very positive things, but those things teach you how to lead a team and an organization to get a result. right? We want to
Mhm.
win the game. We learn how to
Mhm.
do it. If we lose the game, we take accountability for it together. We go in here, we look at the tape, we play back, we discuss it, we hold people accountable. We get out there and we do it again. So it doesn't have to be that story of I slept under a bridge and I didn't have food to eat. That wasn't my story. Not growing up, later on in life, I made decisions that were not of leadership that caused me to experience certain poverty and the hardship that I experienced in life. I honestly brought on to myself because from birth it wasn't designed for me to experience those things. So I still believe that leadership can be learned for sure, and it has a lot to do with your experiences and the environment around you. And that's why I am so, like, when we mentor youth, I am always encouraging them to find somebody outside of their immediate circle. You're not going to get what you need in your home.
Mhm.
When the type of youth, the demographic of youth that we deal with is usually super low poverty. They're usually in situations where mom and dad, if there is a mom and dad in the home together, they're working all the time, 3 and 4 jobs just to make ends meet. So they're not getting that nurturing and that education and that the example that they need. They're usually in environments of the kids that I'm speaking of that we're mentoring now, where they have a drug addicted parent. Like, there's just a lot of chaos and trauma. And so for them, I'm always telling them to build a different environment. Like, build a different environment around you. It's going to be hard, but somebody has to teach you how to stand up and lead yourself. And so that means cut the pictures out of the magazines. If you're looking around in a home where it's unsafe, is barely habitable, cut pictures out and put these things around you. Walk a little further outside your neighborhood if you're old enough to do it, and see people and try to connect with somebody. And those relationships, those experiences, that type of exposure will change your life and develop the leader in you.
So tell us your lowest moment in business and what were you thinking during that time? What would, if you can say it, you don't have to say what you were doing, but what would you?
My lowest moment in business, if I'm being totally honest, I have not experienced a low moment in business necessarily. As an entrepreneur, I've experienced some low moments.
Right.
But as an entrepreneur, the way I see it, like, my mindset is just a little different, Tony. The way I see it is, when you decide to become an entrepreneur, everything from there is a plus. The lessons, the wins, the challenges, because most people don't get to make money from their own idea. Most people don't get to start companies and it be based around their own dreams, goals, and desires. So when we're talking about low moments, I haven't had too many low moments in business. Sure, there's been periods of times where the company didn't make money and things like that. But I don't know if, like, that's almost disrespectful to call a low moment. Like,
Well, what I mean is, funds are low, things are not coming in right. You got to pay your bills, you got to pay rent or mortgage, you got to
I
pay.
didn't experience that as an entrepreneur. I definitely experienced it as an employee.
Really?
For sure. Yeah. The years 2008 to 2010 as an employee, like, since I've been an entrepreneur, I have always been able to pay my bills. In fact,
Okay.
since I've been an entrepreneur, I've been able to pay my bills, my daughter's bills, my mama's bills. Like,
Okay.
I've really been blessed as an entrepreneur. But I believe that my journey had a lot to do with it. The lowest point of my life was during the recession period, the first recession that I ever experienced as an adult, between 2008 and 2010, where I was in real estate and property management at that time. And the world took a hit, especially the industry of real estate and property management. I had no money skills. I made a lot of money. I was making like $250,000 total based on salary and commissions at that time. But I was also spending that money as soon as it was coming in. I was the shopaholic. I had to have all the nice things. And so when that recession hit and I was laid off of that job, I didn't have more than 6 months worth of money to survive on. And, that recession took a hit for over a almost 3-year period of time. And so I went from making like $250,000 that particular year in commissions, or the year right before it, thinking I had made it, to having to humble myself and going back to work for $11 an hour. $11 an hour. And at this time, I had a really big house, 4,000 almost 4,000 square feet, 5 bedrooms on a basement, just me and my daughter. I had the nice cars, and we lost everything. I mean, we lost everything. And we're talking about low moments. Like, I'm not talking about just monetary loss. It was more like literally having to go to the gym to take a shower because the utilities are off in the home, literally having to at the same time go to the gym and fill up gallons of water. And I'm in there pretending like when people that are in the gym that I'm familiar with see me in here pretending that I'm on this water challenge and I just drink all this water, when really I was filling up water gallons to go home and pour in the back of my toilet tank to be able to flush my toilet. I am talking about having to line my toilet with a plastic bag and sit my daughter on the toilet, telling her to take a poop in the plastic bag. You pee in the toilet, you poop in the plastic bag, because we got to go like 5 P's in between a flush. Like, I'm talking about playing hide and seek in the dark with your daughter because you don't want her to go to school and tell people that you don't have lights at home. So we make it a game. Right. Those were some of the lowest points of my life. And it was because I was too prideful to ask for help. I could have asked for help. But everybody was experiencing, like everybody that I knew was losing things around them. You know, my mom at that time was also in real estate. So the world crashed for her too. Money was depleted for her as well. My dad had moved recently to San Francisco, and he was preparing for retirement in one of the highest cost of living cities in the country. So I couldn't ask him. My daughter's father and I had recently broken up, and I just wasn't gonna ask him, you know, like right. So it was just a lot going on. But even during though it was a low point financially, it was a drop in the bucket compared to all of the great things that I've experienced. But I think that I needed that moment. And I say I think because there was no other moment for me during that time. It's the moment, but it's the moment also that I had the biggest paradigm shift. Like, you know what? I can't rely just on one job to provide for me, because at any time, the same thing with like network marketing brought me too close to that moment, brought me back there. Like, oh, I can't rely on this one income.
Right.
Because that could happen again. 2008 to 2010 could happen again. It brought me to that moment. It also said, you better learn how to leverage your credit, because my credit was shot. I couldn't even leverage credit to make any decisions to get me by. My credit was shot from college. So it taught me, like, you better get your credit together, because when I did seek resources and things, that's what people wanted. They wanted to run a credit check. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to qualify for this. So that's when I learned in that moment, like, you actually do need to prioritize your credit. Those aren't just a 3-digit number. You actually will need these things in life. And then I also said that I needed to figure out how to, at that time, my mindset was on saving money, save. Because with all the money that I made, and all the success that I had as an employee at that time, there's no way I shouldn't have been able to weather that storm.
Right.
But that's what happened. And because of that moment, it's the reason that I reward my mom the way that I reward my mom today. Now that I'm in a different financial position, it's the reason that I reward, because her doors were always open to me. It was never a question. It was never, to make me feel miserable or like a bad parent. Like, my childhood bedroom was always available. It's the reason that I reward my daughter in a way, because she never ever made me feel bad or guilty for not having certain things. If I couldn't do, somehow God always lined it up so that she had everything that she needed. Right. And even more, like I would always scrape pennies together to provide for her, so she never felt like she missed out. But there were some things that I just had to say no to, and she never ever made me feel bad for those things. So now I reward her differently, because life looks differently for us, and the things that I couldn't expose her to as a child, she now gets as a young adult. And that was a 2-year period of time of complete disastrous loss, but it took years to rebuild. And that's when the entrepreneur, I had been trying to be an entrepreneur since I was like 18 years old, just These things were more like side hustles. I didn't even realize what I was doing was entrepreneurship. I was just always looking for a new way to earn some extra money. But when I was consciously developing the entrepreneur in myself was a result of the most traumatic experience that I experienced financially in my own life. That 2008 to 2010 time period would change who Donnie Wiggins is, what my priorities were, and what my life stood for. And in 2009, 2010, I started with my first legitimate business, which was women's clothing stores, scrape pennies by, and we started that very strategically and creatively. And then in 2011, I was introduced to network marketing, and that was, I'd always been attracted before 2011 to commission-based employment, just like you, because you write your own check, right? You want to make more money, work longer hours, you'll make more money, sell higher cost products.
Right.
So network marketing was just like another commission-based job for me. Like, you mean to tell me I can do this in my own time without being on anybody's clock? And if I want to make more money, just do more of this activity? Sure. So that's when I started to crawl out of that hole, because I had my job in property management, probably making at that time somewhere around $15 an hour. I had my job in property management. I had my boutiques that I was running with, at that time, a business partner, and using my paychecks, because remember, I'm living at home with my mom. So she allowed me to take the money that I was making from my paychecks. Plus I made commission. So it was like $15 an hour plus commission. And I'd take that commission and pour it into my business. And then I was introduced to network marketing. So now we're on to something. Now we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel again. And all you had to do was show Donnie Wiggins how she can make this money on her own. And it's up from there.
Wow. During that time, that 2-year struggle, what was your thoughts? Did you have your vision board up? Did you figure you're going to come out of it? Or you was like, why is this happening to me? Or where were you then? I mean, because I think network marketing does a lot for the mentality and the mindset and stuff. But did you had some of that before you got there, right? So during that time, were you vision boarding, or were you just like?
So I had some of it because of my experience. I was always the boss or the assistant boss in corporate America. So because I was always like the corporate trainer or the boss on site or the assistant, there were certain types of meetings that I was privy to, certain types of after work hour experiences that I was privy to. I got to travel a little bit and see things. So I always had an elevated mindset, right? I just didn't have, I didn't know how to apply it to myself necessarily. I always thought big and wanted more and had elevated desires. And, you know, even at that time, it was very luxurious experiences because I sincerely wanted it. Like, I wanted to live a certain way. So these things were already in my mind. During the period of 2008 to 2010, I always tell this story. I remember being in my mom's house. Me and my daughter shared my old childhood bedroom. And my daughter's at school at this time period. And I am in my bedroom, and my mom, leaving her bedroom, always had to walk past mine. And I am in my bedroom, and my mom comes walking down the hall, and she catches me like looking at my phone or the TV, and I'm laughing. And so she initially walks past my bedroom, and then she stops and she comes back and she's like, I just don't understand what you have to be laughing at. Like, how could you spend your time sitting in here laughing when you've lost everything and you need to be figuring out a solution? And I said to my mom, well, would I gain anything by sitting in here depressed? Like, do you want me to be sitting in here looking depressed? Should I be sad? Should I be crying? Are the tears and the heartache going to change my life? I don't think so. Like, money was taken from me, but my spirit wasn't. And so to answer your question, during that time frame, I was very disappointed that I lost things, but I was also very encouraged by the fact that my spirit was still intact. During that period of time, I only cried one time. And it was when I was in the process of foreclosing on my home. The bank sent a family in to attempt a short sale. And my daughter and I are there waiting on this real estate agent to bring this family there. And they arrive and they have a daughter and a son very close to the age of my daughter. And at that time in my house, my daughter had a princess castle room. It was customized with everything you could imagine. And so when they got to her room, you know, we're showing them around the house. They got to the room and me and my daughter are standing outside of the room. And these kids, this little boy and this little girl, start fighting over who that room would be for. I want this room. This room is mine. I want this room. And they're like bouncing all over her bed. And me and my daughter is standing in the door frame, not in the room, and she's leaned against the door frame just looking at these kids. You know, she's kind of like swinging back and forth in the door frame, like looking at these kids fighting over her room, and I'm standing behind her. And to see her in that moment, it was no longer I'm losing. My daughter was losing her prized possession, her most prized possession. I mean, she had all the sleepovers. All the kids came to her house. She had all the things. She was so proud of her room. Like at that age, 6 years old, you're literally losing your most prized possession. That broke me.
Wow.
And I remember running away or walking off, and I went into my stairwell to just sit because I needed to regroup. And I just sat and I put my hands in my head in my hands. And that was the first and only cry about my situation during that time. And my daughter comes down the stairs and she puts her hand on my shoulder and she sits. She was always so sweet. And she said, "Mommy, it's okay. It's okay. Don't cry." And she's wiping the tears as they're falling into my lap. And she's like, I don't care. It's okay. As long as the boy doesn't get my room. And I looked up and I laughed at her, and we both were laughing in that moment. And I promised her at that time, this will never be your reality again. Your mother will never be the reason that you lose your most prized possession. Your mom will never be the reason that life is unstable for you ever again. And if you just give me grace during this period to get us out of this, life will look different for you. And I meant that.
Wow. That's the story, man. That's real. And that's something that that you can hang on to, like during the times when you struggling, like I got to take care of this situation here, that'll never happen again. But since you're my co-host today, and we gonna be here a few more minutes, I'm not letting you go. Let's play one of the first videos I want Miss Wiggins to talk about right quick, Doc, if you're there.
Think back to your lowest revenue generating month in the last 12 months. When that month happened, what's your mindset?
It's only a season. And I mean, seasons are hot and cold. It's up and down. It's just a season. Mm-hmm. But it took me a while to come up with that response. It took me a decade to realize, oh, well, this won't last long. Because those down seasons used to last longer than they should have. Not because the season is lasting for a while, but because I'm stuck in it and I'm running scared. And my first thought is to scale back because it's not working. So my thought process is this is a season that won't last long and we're going to work through it.
It's my first time seeing that.
Really? Okay. Well, expand on that a little bit. What do you think about his answer, and where were you when you asked that question? Did you already have a thought in your mind that what he would say, or you just?
No, I can't think for Dave, but I know that we are very complementary, like in our thought processes and in our beliefs. And I just answered that question a very similar way when you talked to me about, when you asked me about my lowest of lows. And I can't take ownership of lows in that way in my business when we're talking about money, because I too believe it's only a season. Even when I experienced what I experienced 2008 to 2010, I knew the whole time that God had more for me. I knew that I would not have been as educated, as smart, as excited, as eager, and as ambitious as I was just to end up homeless and fail. This would not be my story. So when Dave talks about the lowest season, and also understand that was on the Full Transparency podcast, my solo podcast. When I ask questions, I am asking questions with the intent of helping the viewer. Right. So that question wasn't for David. The question was for the viewer who's watching on Apple or Spotify or YouTube, or when it gets posted to my social media. My questions are never for the guest. It's for the person who needs to grow through that experience or relate to that experience. So I know, because David and I are best friends, I know that when he's experiencing a hard time, he truly does understand that it's just a season, the same as I always believe it's a season. And we both have a gift of navigating seasons very well.
You know, I think that's where leadership and mindset comes in play, because you know how they say that it's not the $1 million you make, but it's the person you become along the way. And once you get to that level and you're making, then you understand that you're going to have people. I used to say all the time, if y'all think that you're going to always be going, then Walmart would be a quadrillion-dollar company.
Yeah.
But they have their dips too, and they come back up and they have their dips. You know, the whole goal is, the whole thing is to make sure that your mind is right and you understand that you're going through these challenges and that you can come out on the other side.
Well, also, like the way I see my business, everything is abundance. And I know this sounds so cliche, but it really is the truth. So I could panic. There are, like this year, we aren't generating the revenue that we were generating in 2021, but I'm not worried about it.
Right.
I know that I'm going to hit my goal. I'm not going to panic about the downward cycle or whatever the ebbs and flows are, because I've done some other things at this point. Now I have investments. I have money saved. I know how to make money, right? And I live my life in a way that is affordable to me at this level or this level, at the multi-million-dollar level or just the single digits $1,000,000 level, right? We know how to do these things. And so for me, it's a little different because I'm incredibly ambitious, but I am not going to go into panic mode because we are 20% behind where we were this time, 2021. This is just a season. And one thing that God has proven to me over and over and over again is that I know how to survive hard seasons. I know how to make ends meet. And yep, sometimes ends have to meet. I know how to do those things. So, and it's all abundance. When we get to this point where we're talking about millions of dollars, nobody really needs millions.
Right. You learn that.
Your life, right?
Right.
You don't really need it. So we're already on the up and up. But even when I was in the company that I was involved with you, and I don't remember how much the income was at that time, but let's just say thousands of dollars, right? Thousands of dollars. I'm not panicking there. I wasn't satisfied there, but I had other things going on, right? Multiple streams of income. And that's why also that is important. But even during the time frame where it's like, I guess when you've lost so much in life, everything is just a plus to you. And it's something that I get to do. Like God positioned me to be a person who gets to make millions of dollars. This isn't something that everybody just deserves. And it's not even something that I always deserve. My work ethic sometimes is not top tier, but you get to do these things. And when you start looking at life from the lens of, you know what, I get to do this. I get to figure out this challenge today. I get to figure out how we're going to get through this season. I get to experience a tremendous award right now. Wow, that was different. I get to do these things. You stop feeling the entitlement to certain things. And sometimes it's the entitlement that makes you feel like what you're experiencing is a slow cycle. What were you going to do with that? What did you need it for right now? Like, I get it. You want the success. You want all the things. You want to be written about in Forbes. But don't forget that you get to do this. And that will have you approach when you're not doing it at a high level as you were at another time frame very, very differently.
Okay.
And let me tell you also something about that clip, me and Dave. We don't ever focus on what's wrong. We always focus on how to make it better. So if there were a time frame where, let's just say, like I said, this year, the money isn't moneying the way it was moneying in 2021.
Right.
I still make a lot of money. Right.
Right.
But it is different if we're being
Yeah.
totally transparent.
Right.
I don't sit in my home and think about like, man,
21 was rolling. Wow.
man, we
Yeah.
could be going broke. Like, man,
Yeah.
like I'm not gonna sit in my house like I wonder if this is it. I wonder if it was just for a period of time. I am sitting in here studying innovation. How can I keep up? What do I need to implement in my business? What can I go all in on to make sure that the business is continuing to grow? Because through experience, I just know that it all makes sense in the end. But when people start to focus on the fact that they made $10,000 last month, but they only made $3,000 this month, and you're focused on the $7,000 loss instead of the lesson that you need to grow, then that's when you start to that's when things start to roll backwards very, very quickly. That's when you can't get your head back in the game. That's when the mental enemies start to defeat you and start to eat you alive from the inside. You can never, ever, ever, you acknowledge the things that are going in the opposite direction that you want them to be going in. You got to acknowledge it. We're real people. I see it. I see that it looks different. I see it.
Well, let me ask you this, because I was okay. Do you all look at the analytics of this and say, do y'all sit back and say, okay, what can we do? Or why is this happening? What do you see? Like, okay, right here, this is where it started. What did we do then? Or why is it, do you look at that and try to figure out how you can increase it?
So I'm the analytics person between the two of us. And to be clear, David and I run individually our own 7-figure plus businesses. Okay. And then we have the Social Proof podcast, which is its own 7-figure business as well. So yes, when it comes to the podcast, we have a team of people now and professionals who can help study that data because they understand it from a podcast perspective. Even though we have a top rated podcast and we've been here now for 4 years, we're still learning the business of podcasting. We only know what we know so far. But also individually in my business, yes, if you could see my computer tabs open right now, people are like, oh my God, you got all these tabs open. Yes, because I study data all day long. I study data more than I teach. I study data more than I create because the data is always going to reveal the truth to you about how good you are, how structured you are, how stable you are, how viable your business is. So I am always completely into that.
Okay. Since 2010 and now, think of a situation that you could take that situation and literally write a book from that one situation, or even make a movie out of it from that one situation. Now, I'm talking about everything, not just business, but things that happen to you. Now, I got something out that I believe you could write a book on, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Everything. First of all, I did write a book.
Okay, well, no, I'm just talking about on this. I got you on that.
Yeah, I'm like, I did write a book. The book that I felt drawn to write in 2017 was about the mindset shifts that allowed me to experience my lifestyle shift. And I thought that was very, very important because, Tony, the things that I experienced, the type of loss and disappointment and shame that I experienced during that time, people kill themselves over.
Right.
And they kill themselves over far less.
Right.
And so my mental toughness is and what created it, what sharpened it, what kept it going is just one of the things that I could write a book about. I could write a book about my experiences in navigating the dating world, through that time frame, how it transitioned over time and what the priorities were over time. I could write a book about mothering through the ups and downs, being a parent during that time. I could write a book about being a single parent. I could write a book about honoring your parents. There are so many different things that I could write a book about. And I should be writing these things down and writing my next book.
I'm going to tell you this one. The snowstorm when you was out on 285.
I could write a book
I
about
was-
that thing on
I
snow.
remember seeing you posted on Facebook. Some you had put out there. I was like, how long were you out there?
Over 24 hours.
The gridlock is breaking tonight after something that is not supposed to happen did. In an area called the Sun Belt in a city known as Hotlanta, ice caused a meltdown. The winter storm that brought snow and ice to the south yesterday stranded thousands, bumper to bumper, hour after hour, on roads so slippery cars and trucks could not get traction. Some people spent the night in supermarkets, and kids slept overnight on the floors of their schools.
You and who else? Who all was in the
I was
car?
by myself.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
I was by myself in the car, freezing. Yeah.
Where did you get on at? What part of 285?
Here, I was working at the time in the city in Midtown, and we kept telling our boss, that like, look, this looks like it's about to be really bad.
Right,
and they didn't let us go until about 2-3 o'clock that day. By that time, it's a disaster.
But the National Weather Service told us its forecast was spot on and that they issued the first storm warning 21 hours before it started.
Right.
And so it took me like 14 hours just to get from 17th Street to I remember getting off at Langford. I had to get off at Langford. It took about 14 hours. Trucks were backsliding.
Wait. From 17th Street to Langford?
Mm-hmm.
That usually takes about 2 minutes, normally.
Flurries began before noon yesterday. Ice soon followed. Schools, businesses, and government offices closed early and at nearly the same time. In less than an hour, traffic went from 20 miles an hour to a standstill. Salt and sand trucks could not get through to treat the roads.
The interstate was completely shut down. And at that time, it was so icy, like they were trying to get the big pickup, the 18-wheelers and stuff off the road because they were sliding backwards and, all that stuff. So it took about 14 hours.
Oh, my God. State Road 400 north of Atlanta looked and sounded like this last night. By dawn, nothing had changed. Traffic was frozen on all 3 of Atlanta's major highways.
Luckily, I had a full tank of gas. At that time, I was driving a Honda Civic. So I had a Honda Civic, and the gas was everything it needed to be at that time. That gas tank lasts a long time.
Right.
And so I finally make it to Langford, and it's now starting to get dark. And people are now like, when I get to Langford Parkway, people are now, it's not dark yet, but it's like an overcast, and people are coming out, they're peeing and pooping and stuff on the side of the roads. And, at first, like I was holding it for dear life. I had 2 cups in my car. I peed in the cup in the car twice. And
Wow.
then I was throwing it out the window to pee again. And that's how I was using the bathroom. But it just became normal to see people like opening their car door, crouching down, trying to hide themselves. And this was when I was so grateful that my car made me look like a hoarder, because I had everything in that dang on car.
Yeah, food
I
in
had
there.
a flashlight, I had snacks, I had water in my trunk, I had a blanket, I had a coat, I had sneakers because I was coming from work. So I had a pair of sneakers. They weren't good sneakers for this weather, but it was better than the high heels I had on at work. And I had all that stuff in my car. And so I was like giving the people around me food because we starving at this point.
Good to go? Oh,
God bless you.
absolutely, you too.
We found Jessica and Chris Hartzog handing out food and water on the interstate.
Oh, Jess, are you okay? Are you okay?
I eventually make it to Camp Creek, and now it's pitch black. And at that time, like on the radio, I was talking to my mom and my daughter. They were at the house together. Luckily, my daughter's father was able to get her from school right before all the shutdown, because there were literally kids on school buses, stuck around me.
In Fulton County, 99 school buses filled with kids were still on the road at midnight. At least 2,000 other students spent the night at school. Mark Nilsson walked 6 miles to pick up Elizabeth at kindergarten.
And so
you took 20 to 285?
No, I took Langford
Oh, Langford Parkway. Okay, that's what you was talking about. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Langford cuts cross. Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
And so now I am at this point, I'm like, when I get onto 285, I'm at like Cascade, and it's dark. And my mom and my daughter wanted to be with my mom because she wanted to just, as soon as I got home, she wanted to be with me. So her dad dropped her off at my mom's, and she's crying and hysterical. I got my phone charger, so she's FaceTiming on and off, and we can get a connection. But I wasn't sure at this point because now I'm down to like a quarter tank of gas. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be able to FaceTime. We need to reserve, blah, blah, blah. So we end up going to sleep. I was trying not to go to sleep, but you had to go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So I end up going to sleep, and I wake up to all of this screaming around me, and I'm startled because people had been robbing each other on the expressway.
Oh, wow. Seriously?
Yeah, like people were coming, like, and not even the people who were stuck.
Oh no, they was coming from the hood. Yeah.
And coming onto the expressway on foot and robbing people at gunpoint. So I wake up to this screaming, and I'm like, oh my God. So I, get on the phone with my mom, like, I don't know what's going on. I can't see anything, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like crouched down in my car. And then suddenly I see people running past with like blankets and flashlights. And so I'm like, I don't think somebody's being robbed. So I get out, and the lady who was like 4 cars behind me was in labor having a baby.
Wow.
Chris was stranded himself last night for 9 hours.
There were just some folks stranded, especially some pregnant folks, folks with small children, and we were just trying to bring them some food, water.
Many abandoned their cars to take shelter in stores or restaurants, including this Hardee's, where 60 people spent the night.
And it was that moment that said, okay, we got to do something. Like, her baby will never survive in this weather. So we got to do something. And there were people luckily there was a nurse there who was able to help deliver. And so that part went very smoothly, but people went really into rescue mode. We were no longer waiting, because they were sending out all this help. We were no longer waiting for the help to come. Now we're in survival mode. Like, it literally felt like what's one of those shows, like The Walking Dead, when you're trying to get to your next place, right?
Yeah.
And so they get this woman, and somebody comes with like a dirt bike or something, and they were able to get her off through safety. And once they dropped her off, they took her to the hotel right off the exit. At this point, we're like close to Campbellton Road. So I'm at Campbellton Road. Camp Creek is the next exit. So they were able to get her to the I believe it was the Courtyard. That's right. One of the hotels right off the interstate.
Mm-hmm.
And so they started coming back and getting more people and coming back and get more people. But this takes forever. They can only get one person at a time. And so now the sun is coming up. The sun is coming up. Cars are stuck. I'm completely iced over. And we all decided my car is on EE at this point. And a group of us decided to just walk to Camp Creek Parkway from the Campbellton Road exit. So that's what we did. We walked to Camp Creek Parkway. We went to the hotel. They fed us. They gave us things to drink, hot drinks, dry towels and things like that. My feet, they're soaking wet because I had sneakers, but they were fabric. They weren't for icy weather. Mm-hmm. And so that happened, and we stayed there for hours. And then we got word that we could go back and get our cars. Some cars had been moving and stuff on the expressway because everybody's goal was to make sure they had enough gas. So when this cleared up, we could start our cars. Well, my car ended up being stuck in a ditch in a ditch of ice. And I'll never forget, one of my Facebook friends, as he's going past, recognized me, and he got out that car and single-handedly pushed my car so that I could drive it out.
Scott, I'm standing along I-285 south of Atlanta. This traffic has just started inching forward, but mostly it has been at a standstill. And remember, some of these drivers are still trying to finish last night's commute.
I'm telling you that. See, you can write a book on the mindset things that you learn from the snowstorm. That 24-hour thing, what happened to me in 24 hours. This is what I learned from that. That'll be powerful. Hey, yeah. Doc, let's play one more video, and we'll talk about that, and then, we'll get ready to close it out.
Yeah, I got to eat me some lunch. I'm starving.
I got you now, though. I got you.
He don't got money like you at ESTG.
Why don't he?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know. That's why I had to.
Just because he ain't had no money, you left him?
Had to.
That ain't right. I don't like that.
If he's making more money than me, if I'm making more money than him,
You should help him get some more money.
How am I going to do that, though? If I have my own career, I'm doing what I'm doing.
A woman's supposed to be a helpmate.
I feel like a man is supposed to be that for a girl.
A man's supposed to be a leader.
You right.
You're supposed to help him be a better leader.
So I was in the wrong. Now I'm the bad guy. I'm always the bad guy.
Oh, you looking for a daddy?
I ain't looking for a daddy. I got my own money. I can do what I do. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't need a guy for money.
You want one?
I want a man to be stable. If I was to leave him, I want him to be...
he wasn't stable?
He was okay, but I was making more than him.
So he was stable, though?
Yeah.
I heard you talk about one day, you said that you said something like, if the man can't, you know what I'm about to say, the man can't get with your program because you are very successful, then you might be successful alone till we till the casket drop. You remember saying that?
I never said that.
Okay. Well, yeah. No, I know you didn't say it that way. But,
and it's a little out of context.
Okay.
What the conversation was when I said a similar thing was, would I date somebody who was intimidated by me? I had a situation where would I date someone who was intimidated by me to the point where I would stop my career for that relationship? And my answer was that this is my calling in life. This is my purpose. And if there is the man for me would not desire me to not be living in my purpose. The man for me is a leader who is looking for us to have the ability to merge what we're both put here to do. And if that man that I'm dating or that desires me isn't a person who wants to foster the leader in me the same way that I want to foster the leader in him, then I will do it by myself before I give up every single thing that I've done to serve somebody's ego.
do you consider yourself a alpha female? Like you're alpha?
I don't buy into that stuff.
Okay.
I consider myself a woman, and I consider myself a really good woman. I don't buy into the alpha, beta, all that stuff, because people use that against you. I am a strong woman, and I know that we're in this season of it's not desirable to be a strong woman. Well, it is to me. I am a strong woman because I believe that it takes strength of a woman to produce children, to reproduce, right? I believe that there was nothing less than strength for me to get through that season of 2008 to 2010. I believe that it requires the strength of a woman for her to build her own business and empire. But I also believe that it requires the strength of a woman to be able to support whatever man she ends up choosing for herself. That's not easy to do, right? It's not easy to jump onto somebody else's program and say, hey, I am going to balance motherhood. I'm going to balance this household. I'm going to balance all these things and support you. And I also, and not be strong. Like, you have to be strong in order to do these things. So when we say things, sometimes it's just like the ridiculousness of it all. You won't ever get to the end goal. Like, the opposite of strong is weak. Who wants to be that? And when people are now using terms like alpha woman, alpha man, they're trying to back you into this corner to justify, again, why you're not desirable or why you're not this or why you're that. And so I don't buy into all of those things. I am a woman. I am a strong woman. I am a very considerate woman. I am also a soft woman. I am whatever I need to be that's appropriate for the situation. And when you deal with women who are in business or women who are in leadership, the one thing that works against us is that we get a lot of public exposure, right? I live my life out loud. Well, when I'm at home and with whoever I'm at home with, I live my life privately. The internet doesn't need to or deserve to see soft Donnie cuddled up on a sofa being rubbed on by her man. That's nobody's business. So when you have a woman who is in leadership, who is confident and secure, and my whole business is to be a leader, like nobody would hire me to be their business coach if they thought I was a weak woman or a weak person. Nobody would hire a man to be their business coach if they thought that he was weak. It's just really stupid shit to say. It just really is, right? So the business side of me has to be the leader. The business side of me has to be tough. The business side of me has to see things in black and white. But there are people in a very small group of people who get to see the personal side of me, and it's not appropriate for everybody. It's just like politicians who are out running the world. It's not appropriate to see them out with their friends snorting cocaine, but we know that they do it.
Yeah. All right. So I got two more questions, and then we're going to wrap it up. The first one is you being a business, and
me being a what? You cut out.
Business coach.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always not saying correctly the things you say, but I'm gonna try to put it in the ballpark. That well, first thing is, how did you come about being this coach and business coach? And the second thing is, I don't know the term you use, but is it the number one? Is it female business coach, or is it number one coach?
Who I am? I am the number one business coach in these streets right now. And where'd I get that from? Me? Mm-hmm. I'm the number one business coach that I know. I'm the number one business coach that my family knows. I'm the number one business coach that people in my community who tell me I am their favorite business coach is. So that's where that comes from. I'm a really good business coach. I started as a result, it's a spinoff of network marketing in terms of business coach. I've always been the coach. I've always been that bossy little girl who be like, you need to do this and you should do that and you should try this. Like I've always had a gift of identifying other people's gifts. And I took leadership and said, you should do that, right? And so that was that. But in business, in network marketing, one of the things that worked against me in network marketing, you know how we would do the three-way calls? Mm-hmm. People would put me on the phone with some of their prospects, and I'd be on the phone with them like, hey, you'll never survive in this industry. You'll never make it. The goals that you want, that you're telling me that you want to get out of here, like it's either your mindset or your interest level or whatever it is, your confidence level, you're not going to make it here. But in talking to you, I think you should try this. Have you ever considered this? Like listening to you, you should try this. And people would be like, oh my God.
You sending my money away, Donnie.
Listen, my uplines would be so pissed off with me when I would do stuff like that. But I just couldn't. I was never the network marketer that would just sign anybody up when they communicated that their goal was to go and recruit the world. And I'm talking to you and I know you're not going to recruit. You're not even going to recruit two people to bring you. Right. So I would, if they were just coming in to use the product, that was one thing. But if they were like, I'm going to make millions and I'm like, no, you probably would be really great at this thing though. Right. And so one guy that I told that to, he actually went and started the business. And he ended up making 6 figures.
Wow.
And he was just shouting me out on Instagram. And so, I mean, not on Instagram, on Facebook, but I had done this so much. So when I started sharing his story, other people, like I would repost his story, other people that I had told that same thing to started also posting like, hey, Donnie, just letting you know, I went and started this business, or I went and started this, or I started this career. And I was like, oh, wow. And so I was just doing that, you know, and I was always that person in my friend group, in my family. And so one day I got this DM from a guy and he said, hey, I'm just really lost right now. I need to provide for my family, though. How much do you charge to help me come up with a business idea? And I was like, charge. This is 2014.
Right.
No, well, so it started in 2012, but this is in 2014. Mm-hmm. I said, charge. How much you want to charge for this? And I threw out a number. I said $97. And he's like, sign me up. And I'm like, all right. And so I did a call with him and he went and he started his business. And so then I made an offer out of it. Like, you could get a coaching call with me. The only thing I helped you do was think of a couple of business ideas that you might want to entertain. I didn't know how to tell you how to monetize it, structure it, organize it, didn't know any of the legal stuff that went behind it. I just knew to say, hey, you probably be a really, really good basketball trainer to kids that whose fathers were in the NBA, but they won't listen to them. They probably listen to you. Like, I was really, really good at giving you that idea. That was it. And as that business continued to grow and I did more and more of that, now I have to organize it. Like, okay, I got money coming in, and who was supposed to be on my schedule today at this time? Oh, I need a calendar. I need this. How am I collecting money? Did they pay? I don't know. What did I tell them last week? I need notes. So as I'm going through these cycles of business, I'm having to get systems in place and all these things to keep things organized, because I was getting so many people that I was losing track of what I was telling people, if they paid through PayPal or if they paid through Stripe or Square or whatever. And I had to organize that stuff. And then when I organized it and I saw how that worked in my business, after it then grew, I'd then be able to say, hey, this is what you should do. When you do it, if you do it, come back to me and I'm gonna tell you how to organize it. And so that's when I started teaching people systems. And as my business grows, I teach whatever that growth looks like.
Wow. And you know, I got so many more questions to ask you, but I got to let you go. But you coming back, because I got a whole list of stuff that I want to ask you. I got to cut it off though, but this is the last topic I want to talk about. And this is why I realized, I said, Ms. Wiggins is really assertive. I don't care if you got 10 guns pointing at you and you have a gun with no bullets in it, you still gonna be there fighting. And I need to ask you about this situation. What did you learn from this situation? And you know what I'm talking about, that you had a little battle on social media, and 2 or 3 guys coming at you and David. And it's like David did a little fight, then he kind of left it alone. But I woke up, Donnie was in the alley fighting by herself. She was fighting everybody. I'm like, then the next day, I'm like, Donnie's still out there fighting. It's like you didn't give up on that battle. And I don't know if David gave up. I think he just got tired of it. But you was like,
yeah. I initially stopped too. That was, so we talked about when I joined Social Proof, I got negative feedback.
Mm-hmm.
But that was my first time, what you're talking about, being
right.
slandered on the internet, right? David had been slandered on the internet before. So he had already learned that if you respond to these people, they will keep going, right? Yeah. Well, I hadn't learned yet. All right, this is my first slander.
Right.
What's up? So I was waking up in the middle of the night, like, and
I'm like, she in the alley.
But
and another thing.
Yeah. And there were thousands upon thousands of comments, and obviously you cannot entertain them all, but there was just some that were just like, oh, I actually have to defend myself here.
Mm-hmm.
And in that particular case, it worked for me to defend myself. When things are untrue, it always just finds a way to go away. So that happened. But also, you can't sometimes, so I don't really pay attention to a whole lot of negative stuff. And that's why, like, a lot of the questions about alpha this or boss that, like, I don't even really give it a lot of energy, because my mindset is just somewhere else, right? I am trying to build a business, take care of my family, end up in a relationship with a man who wants to change the world with me, or our piece of the world. Like, that's what I want out of my life. And so all of these little ancillary details about who makes more money and this, that, and the other, it doesn't matter to me. And that's the truth. I believe what matters is whatever you decide works for you. There are some absolute no-nos that will not work for me. And there are some like, we can see. I don't know. But when it comes to like things like that happened on the internet, I let a lot of stuff go. People say something negative about me every day online. When you're a leader, though, and you decide to champion a cause, you will always face public scrutiny. And that's a whole other podcast episode where we talk about psychology of why that happens. But in this particular case, sometimes you have bullies who believe that they have the authority to end you. And sometimes you have to courageously face your bully and say, you have no authority here. And that's all I
did. That. You did. I remember the next day I woke up, I'm like, she's still in the alley fighting. And then a day later, Donnie is out there. She like, this ain't over with. I'm gonna finish y'all off. And
yeah, because you'll get people who will, sometimes if you say nothing, it goes away. And then sometimes if you say nothing, it grows. And I had already made it up in my mind that I wasn't going to entertain it very long. I responded, maybe for 2 days. This went on for over a month. I maybe spent 2 days responding to it. I wasn't going to entertain it very long, but I believe it's important to stand up for yourself, for sure. Like, while I'm not going to respond to every comment and every post and every drag and slander campaign, there will be evidence that I spoke up for myself. And then those people who are reading along can choose to believe it or not believe it. My job here isn't to convince anybody of anything. It's simply to say that you have no authority to end me.
Right.
Period.
Right. Who are you?
Who are you?
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm not going to hold you any longer, but I would like for you to talk to our audience and say, as being a business coach, what would you, the question, I guess my question would be, you can coach anybody in business. They got a construction company, they got whatever, they can call you for coaching. I mean, who do you not coach?
I don't coach a lot of people. So right now I only work with brands that, I believe that I can impact in a major way. I work with people, I work with entrepreneurs in a couple of different ways. First of all, my mentorship community, Actionable CEO, is for every entrepreneur. Anybody at any level can come in and learn. It's for the entrepreneur or the business owner founder who wants to personally develop, mentally develop, financially develop. And that's for that person like, dang, Donnie, how do you just keep going? How do you take this hit and keep going? How do you see what people say about you and keep going? That's for the person who's like, with all the good that you do and this just happens, like, how do I become that entrepreneur? You want to be inside of Actionable CEO. I teach all kinds of habits, daily habits, mindset skills, business tips and things like that inside of Actionable CEO. And that's my low ticket entry offer, $97 a month. But then I have a consulting and coaching. I have a consulting package and a coaching package. The consulting package is for entrepreneurs who are at that 7-figure level and they're looking to scale their business. And because that's a one-on-one capacity, I generally do an interview with the entrepreneur, and we see if it's not just about their business industry, but is there alignment in our personalities? Do we believe that we're a good fit? Like, if I am speaking to you like this, are you going to receive the information from me and actually execute on it? Are you going to do the work? So in that instance, it could essentially be any type of entrepreneur, but I don't just judge based on the industry. There's a whole formula for how I pick my clients. And the same thing with my coaching clients. I prefer to work with digital brands versus brick and mortar brands, just because sometimes when you start to work with brick and mortar brands and they're coming to you at the place that they're at, there's oftentimes a financial capacity issue that doesn't allow you to keep inventory and the physical bills paid and invest in the growth of your business. So I still also, again, interview those individuals one by one just to see if there is any opportunity for us to work together. But when you come for coaching, it's very important that you're coming with an open mind, that you're coming with a coachable mind, that you are coming with a level of work ethic that probably is superior to the work ethic that you display on your own. But you also have to have access to capital to take the coaching and actually implement it in your business.
Cool. Well, y'all heard it, folks, from the big homie, Donnie Wiggins.
Yeah.
The number one
The number one and is the number one business coach to some of your favorite entrepreneurs today.
Wow. Okay. Cool. Well, she's coming back. We're gonna get her again because we could do like 3 of them. I got questions and a lot of them. So, but this has been another episode of Elite Psyche. Make sure you go and subscribe and like and comment too. I get a lot of likes and stuff, but you need to comment. Say something about Miss Wiggins and all the good stuff that she said today. But put those comments in. We about at 7,000 subscribers. My goal was to get to my goal is to get to 10,000 in 12 months. We got 2 more months. We're at 10 months now. 2 more months to get 3,000. I know y'all can do that, but
get it.
Just get it. Yeah, like, comment, do all that stuff. And we'll definitely appreciate it on that. So, all right, folks, y'all have a good day, and thank you again, Miss Wiggins.
Thank you, guys. I'll see you soon.
All right. Make sure that you like and subscribe and hit the all button and all that kind of stuff, because we're going to have a lot of good interviews on this podcast.